Meghan Markle calls it destiny. Everyone else might call it smart networking with a royal twist, because fairy tales don't usually start with a Soho House membership card. She didn't just join Soho House, she worked through it. She lived in that world. Prince Harry thought he knew every chapter of Meghan's story. That was true until one photo caught his eye. There was sunlight, laughter, champagne, and tucked in the corner, something small, easy to miss. A navy blue canvas bag with the Soho House logo stamped on it. Most people wouldn't notice it, but Harry did. To him, that name carried rumours, history and quiet warnings. Because Soho House wasn't just another private club, it was a doorway, one that connected actresses to billionaires, models to politicians, and rising stars to royalty. And suddenly, Meghan's timeline didn't quite make sense. The media sold it as a fairy tale. An actress meets a prince by chance. Love beats the odds. Old traditions bend for modern romance. But what if that wasn't the real story? What if the meeting wasn't luck at all but planning? Because that one photo, the bag, the yachts, and the friends who never showed up in interviews opened a door. Harry wasn't meant to look behind. A web of introductions, a list of names, a pattern that felt too clean to ignore. From Istanbul to London to Toronto, every city revealed another link, and every link led back to the same tight circle and the same man behind it all, Marcus Anderson. Now Harry wasn't just questioning his marriage, he was questioning the origin story, because once you realise your fairy tale might have been a strategy, love stops feeling like destiny and starts feeling like a setup. It started quietly, late at night, inside Frogmore Cottage. Harry wasn't searching for drama, he was searching for answers. Old photos covered his desk, tabloid shots, archived Instagram posts, pieces from Meghan's life before the palace. But it wasn't the smiles or the locations that stood out. It was the repetition. In photo after photo, the same symbol kept appearing. A champagne glass etched with a familiar crest. A velvet invitation stamped with the same initials. Soho House International. To the public, it was just an elite club where celebrities hid from cameras and executives made quiet deals. But inside London's social scene, its role ran deeper. It was where introductions were made, careers were shaped, images were carefully built, and at the centre of it all was a man. Harry had only met in passing Marcus Anderson. Marcus wasn't new to Meghan's life. He'd been there for years, a close friend, a travel companion, the man insiders quietly described as her social guide. Archived society blogs and guest lists painted the same picture. Marcus was the invisible thread connecting Meghan to powerful people across Europe and North America. With each new discovery, Harry's unease grew. The yachts weren't random, the parties weren't spontaneous, the friendships weren't accidents. They were curated, carefully placed, perfectly timed, all leading her straight into his world. As the clock slipped past midnight, Harry noticed something even more disturbing. The same names funding his charities were the same faces smiling beside Meghan in those old, forgotten photos. That wasn't coincidence. That was structure, and it was about to reveal a story no palace press release ever talked about. For years, the world believed a story that felt too perfect to doubt. A prince tired of rules, an actress searching for purpose beyond the screen. Two people, worlds apart, somehow drawn together by fate. That was the version the press sold, a modern royal romance meant to heal the monarchy's image. The palace smiled, the headlines gushed. Every photo, every interview, every soft-lit moment framed Meghan as the symbol of change, the woman who made people believe in love again. But behind the glowing covers and carefully chosen images, the timeline was already shifting. That blind date arranged by a mutual friend. That friend wasn't random. She was a long-time member of Soho House London, the same network that had quietly surrounded Meghan for years. The press never mentioned that Meghan had already been attending elite Soho House events in Toronto, gatherings meant for top-tier members, not working TV actors. They also never mentioned that Marcus Anderson, the man who controlled those guest lists, was sitting at the same table where her introduction to Harry was quietly mapped out. Every coincidence left a trace. Every meeting had a host. To the public, it looked like chemistry. To those inside the circle, it looked planned. Even the first photos of them together told the same story. The neat park walks, the hidden weekends in Botswana. The timing followed a media rhythm too polished to be spontaneous. Someone was shaping the image long before the cameras showed up. And while the world celebrated the royal engagement, few noticed how easily Meghan's old social circle blended into Harry's own. Different worlds, same faces, because the fairy tale wasn't written by destiny, it was directed by design, and the script was only starting to crack. It began with one discovery, but it didn't stop there. Once Harry started digging, the connections multiplied faster than he could track them. There were names he recognised: socialites, donors, business figures who had quietly supported his charities. Now, those same names appeared next to Meghan in photos from years earlier. Different events, different countries, the same people. The deeper he looked, the clearer it became. Archived guest lists placed Meghan at Soho House events in Istanbul, Madrid, and Barcelona between 2014 and 2016, mingling with financiers, diplomats, and heirs who would later cross into Harry's world. This wasn't random overlap, it was alignment. Old Society blog posts described Marcus Anderson's private gatherings as carefully curated nights. Women invited for ambition, men invited for influence. Every introduction part of a larger plan. That's when Harry realised something unsettling. He wasn't the first royal-adjacent figure Marcus had approached. And Meghan wasn't the first actress to move through those rooms. She was just the one who learned how to stay. Then came the money questions. Soho House memberships, international flights, private villas. None of it matched an acting salary. Invoices suggested the costs weren't personal. They were covered through corporate partnerships. In simple terms, someone else was paying. When Harry reached out to old contacts, calls went unanswered. One finally warned him, quietly, "Don't dig too deep. That world protects its own." And that's when the fairy tale truly began to break. Because every answer pushed Harry closer to one chilling realisation. This was never just a love story. The life Harry believed was built on love now felt like it may have been assembled piece by piece through strategy. And if the timeline was wrong, what else had been rewritten? By the time he followed the final thread, the pattern was impossible to deny. Every introduction, every photo, every chance meeting that led to their relationship pointed back to one quiet figure working in the background, Marcus Anderson. To the public, Marcus appeared charming and discreet, a hospitality consultant tied to an elite private network. But to those who attended his closed-door gatherings, he was something else entirely. He wasn't just a host, he was a broker of influence, a curator of access, and Meghan had been one of his most refined protégés. Society insiders described his circle as a kind of finishing school for ambitious women. They were guided into the right rooms, coached on presentation tone and conversation, until they could move comfortably among the powerful. Harry wasn't just another chapter in Meghan's rise, he was the summit. Things grew even more unsettling when Harry looked closely at the wedding guest list. Nearly half of Meghan's side had direct ties to Marcus's network brand executives, club directors, social operators with no connection to her acting career. What millions watched as a royal love story now looked in hindsight like a carefully staged summit of influence. Then came the memory that haunted him most. An old voicemail from William A. Warning, wrapped in concern. "Be careful, you're not marrying into a romance. You're marrying into a strategy." Harry brushed it off back then. He doesn't anymore. As he replayed the message, scrolled through familiar faces, and counted the so-called coincidences, the illusion finally gave way. Every part of the relationship now felt planned, from the introductions to the image control, from quiet whispers to wedding bells. And when Harry looked at the woman beside him, he no longer saw destiny, he saw design. Because in this version of the story, the prince didn't rescue the actress. The actress rewrote the fairy tale and cast herself as its queen. Once the curtain slipped, there was no unseeing it. The cheerful interviews, the synchronized smiles, the polished charity appearances. All of it began to feel like choreography from a script Harry had never been handed. Inside their private life, the changes became harder to ignore. Conversations that once felt natural now sounded rehearsed. Meetings happened without his knowledge. Names mentioned casually would later appear in press leaks word for word. Every statement he made felt guided, softened, reframed, filtered through Meghan's expanding team of advisors, many with roots tracing back to Soho House. What once felt like love had become management. When palace aides called her savvy, they meant strategic. When journalists called her independent insiders, whispered calculating. And while Meghan spoke publicly about breaking free from royal control, she was quietly building her own empire. One brand deal, one documentary, one carefully managed image at a time. Harry, once the most untouchable royal in the world, now felt like an accessory in his own life. He wasn't the headline anymore. He was the supporting character. Even his memoir, insiders claimed, showed signs of outside shaping. The voice sounded like Harry's, the framing not quite. And through it all, Marcus Anderson stayed close, spotted at private gatherings, credited with introductions, quietly overseeing networks and media connections. The same name, the same pattern. And by the time Harry fully realised how much control had shifted, it was already complete. Meghan had mastered something no royal training ever taught: control of the narrative. She didn't just leave the institution, she replaced it. And the prince who once rebelled against the crown now found himself serving another one, quieter, sharper, and far more powerful. Because sometimes the throne isn't made of gold, it's made of influence. And Meghan sits on hers without ever needing a crown. When the royal gates finally closed behind them, many believed Harry and Meghan were stepping into peace. Freedom, silence. A life without cameras or control. But the silence never came, because Meghan understood one simple truth better than anyone else. In a world built on image, whoever controls the story controls everything. Almost overnight, her operation expanded. New PR firms, Hollywood strategists, image consultants who had never worked inside palace walls but knew exactly how to build a celebrity monarchy, the documentaries, the interviews, the tell-all projects. They weren't confessions, they were campaigns. Every release was carefully timed. A royal controversy here, a personal revelation there. Each project countering headlines she didn't control. When criticism rose, a sympathetic profile followed. When questions appeared, a rebrand arrived. Insiders later revealed that early drafts of the Netflix series were heavily revised after Meghan's review sessions. Scenes softened, quotes reshaped. The story wasn't just told, it was engineered, and through it all, one pattern stayed the same. The same communications advisors tied to her Soho House circle. The same Marcus Anderson connections quietly working behind the scenes. Every story echoed the same message: Meghan the victim, Meghan the visionary, Meghan the voice of change. Even Harry's public tone began to shift, from anger to apology, from independence to repetition. He wasn't telling his story anymore. He was defending hers. Media analysts now call it narrative inversion, a masterclass in flipping perception. Turn scrutiny into sympathy, turn ambition into activism, turn strategy into survival. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, one thing was clear: Meghan hadn't escaped the monarchy's media machine. She rebuilt it with herself at the centre. And in that world, truth isn't revealed. It's edited frame by frame until only one version remains. Hers. Maybe it was always meant to end this way. Not with a crown, but with control. Not inside a palace, but inside a story. Because when you trace every thread from the yacht photo to the carefully arranged introductions, from the curated wedding guest list to the media empire that followed the picture changes, this wasn't just a romance, it was a recruitment. Every connection, every friendship, every perfectly timed opportunity reveals the blueprint of a life designed to rise. And at the centre of it all stands the woman the world thought it already knew. To her supporters, Meghan Markle is transformation itself, the woman who rose above cruelty and class to redefine royalty. To her critics, she's ambition wrapped in empathy, every word polished, every emotion placed. But to Harry, she's the question that never lets him sleep, the love that may have been real and the manipulation that makes it impossible to know. Because if the photos, the connections and the timelines all point to orchestration, then what was ever authentic? Was it fate that brought her into his life? Or a script she never admitted she was following? Maybe both, maybe neither. And that's the part that still haunts him. The world saw a fairy tale. Harry saw the machinery behind it. And once you see the strings, you can never believe in magic the same way again. Maybe the official story is true. Maybe it isn't. But one thing is certain. It was never accidental. If you want to see how far this pattern really goes, watch our previous investigation, where we break down Harry and Meghan exposed at the NYC Awards, including the shocking video of their public fight. You're watching Star Spotlight, where the truth hides between the headlines.